Most guys who train will go to the gym for years and still don't look like they lift. You're putting in the hours every week, you're staying consistent for months, but after years and years of doing this, you've barely changed, your physique looks the same every single year, and you barely look like a guy who's been lifting more than 6 months. Maybe you don't have the right genetics. Maybe it's because everyone else who has a great physique is on gear. Okay, some people are on gear, but you don't have bad genetics, and you certainly don't need to start injecting dangerous chemicals to get an impressive physique. And when you fix the 3 things that I'm going to show you in this video, you'll see exactly where you've been going wrong. And by the way, reason number 3 is something that most guys never think of. Now, the reason I'm sitting here telling you this is because I was in exactly the same position that you're in right now. In 2015, I'd been training for about 7 years, and I'm using the term training very loosely. But I was consistent. I don't think I missed more than a week at a time during that entire period. I was doing all of the right stuff, or at least I thought I was. I was doing all of the exercises, all the stuff with my diet that I'd been told to, and this was the best I had achieved. 7 years of lifting to look like someone who's barely been lifting for 6 months. And 15 months later, I look like this. I managed to get the exact physique that I dreamt of when I first stepped into the gym. And it's largely down to what I'm going to show you in this video. So without further ado, these are the 3 reasons why you currently don't look like you lift. Reason number 1, you don't lift, or more specifically, you don't lift correctly in the way that builds muscle. You see, when you break it down, building muscle is really simple. You need to provide the muscle with a stimulus. Within that stimulus, you need to create enough tension. Your muscles recover so that they grow. As they grow, they get stronger. As you get stronger, you need to increase what you're doing to give that stimulus, and the cycle repeats. The only thing is, it just gets more difficult the more advanced you are. Now, within this process of building muscle, there's one key thing that I want you to focus on, because it is the single biggest indicator that what you're doing is working and you're building muscle. And that is that you are getting stronger. You've probably heard that you need to apply progressive overload in order to build muscle. So you need to be lifting heavier weights, lifting for more reps over time. Now, where people go wrong with this is they assume that by lifting heavier weights or by getting an extra rep, that is in itself what's building muscle, when it's actually the other way around. Being able to lift a heavier weight or get an extra rep and getting stronger over time, that is the indicator that you have built muscle. So if we go back to that flow, that process of building muscle, let's look at what you need to do. You need to create a stimulus. This means picking exercises that allow you to target the muscle you're trying to grow. So if you want to build biceps, you need to do some sort of bicep curl. You then need to create enough tension. And in simplest terms, this just means whenever you do a set, you need to take that set close to failure. So whether you do 6 reps, 8 reps, 15 reps, it doesn't really matter, as long as when you get to that final rep, you are either at failure or very close to it. You want to make sure that throughout your sets, you are keeping your technique consistent. This means you're not shortening the range of motion. You're not using momentum to get the weight up. Within any given set you do for an exercise, the only thing that should change between your first rep and your final rep is the speed that the rep is moving, and obviously the difficulty. But the actual technique, the range of motion, that should stay the same. And the reason this is important is because of the next step. Every time you go into the gym, you want to look back at what you were doing for that exercise, how much weight, how many reps you did, and you want to try and beat it by a little bit. And this won't happen every single week. You won't always be able to improve on the previous week, but you should always go into a session aiming to. And that's why it's so important to make sure that your technique is consistent from your first rep to your last rep, because that allows you to know that you have actually gotten stronger. If you manage to get another rep or lift a heavier weight, but your technique was just getting shitter and shitter throughout the set, you haven't actually gotten stronger. You've just adjusted the technique. And over the weeks, over the months, if your technique is remaining the same and you are able to get an extra rep here and there, every now and then you're able to lift a little bit more weight, that is the best sign that you are building muscle. And this leads on to reason number 2. You are not consistent. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, hang on, I've been training for years. I've been going to the gym, so I have been consistent. Yes, you might have been going to the gym consistently, but have you been following a program consistently? Most guys don't do this. In fact, I'd say most guys don't even follow a program for more than a couple of weeks before they get bored. They change things, they think it's not working, and they just jump to the next new exciting thing. Once you have a program, and by the way, it doesn't need to be fancy. I'll link a couple of programs down below in the comments that you can have a look at. But once you've got a program, you should follow that for, honestly, at least 3 to 4 months. Realistically, you can follow it for a lot longer than that, and even if you do make some changes, you don't need to completely revamp the whole program. You can just make 1 or 2 exercise swaps here and there. But as we spoke about in the first reason, you need to be getting stronger over time. You need to be logging your workouts, tracking your lifts. If you're constantly changing your routine, even if it's changing to a similar movement, for example, from a bench press to a dumbbell press, how do you know if you're actually progressing? Well, the answer is you don't know. And that's why it's so important that you have consistency with the program and you keep the exercises in that program for as long as you can. And all you should be doing is trying to get as strong as possible on these movements. And that can take many months, years sometimes. The first time I deadlifted, I think I did about 120, 130 kilos. The most I've ever lifted is 230 kilos. So I added 100 kilos to my deadlift. That didn't happen over a few weeks. It happened over years of doing deadlifts again and again. And the same thing applies to any exercise and any muscle that you're trying to grow. And reason number 3, you've never gotten lean enough. This is something that holds so many guys back from getting the physique they want. Because even if you've been making the first 2 mistakes where you haven't been training properly to get stronger each week, you haven't been following a program as consistently as you should have, just simply by showing up and going to the gym consistently, you will have made some progress. You will have some muscle underneath, even if it's not the amount that you would hope. The problem though, and the reason why most guys just don't look like they lift, is because any muscle they have is covered by a layer of body fat. It doesn't even have to be a high amount of body fat. We're not talking about 30, 35, 40% body fat. This is me at around probably 20% body fat, and I don't really look that big. This was only a year or so ago. Once I cut down, this is what I look like. And this is the difference of 30 pounds of fat loss. I had people accusing me of taking steroids in this photo. And to be honest, even I looked at it and thought, maybe someone has been slipping a bit of juice into my cornflakes. But that is the power of getting lean. You can have a decent amount of muscle, but if it's covered by even a thin layer of body fat, all of that definition, all of that size, all of that shape, it's just not going to be visible. And this is why most guys, if they want to get that lean, ripped look, you're probably going to have to lose a lot more weight than you think. Don't be one of those guys who gets so worked up about not wanting to weigh below a certain amount. People throw around the term victim weight as if a guy is under a certain body weight, then it means he's not jacked. But honestly, this was me at about 63 kilos, so I beg to disagree. Now look, there's obviously other reasons why you may not have the physique you want. These are just 3 of the very obvious problems that I noticed, one with myself, with clients, and also guys that I speak with in the gym. Now obviously I've oversimplified things here. There is a lot more nuance that goes into building a program, how to train close to failure, how to progress, how to set up different phases, whether you're in a fat loss phase, whether you're going into a lean bulking phase. But these are 3 of the things that I wish someone told me back when I started lifting, because it honestly would have saved me 7 years. So if you found it helpful, then let me know, drop a like, leave a comment if you've got any other questions. If you do want any further help and you're interested in one-on-one coaching, just drop me a message on Facebook or Instagram. We can have a chat. I'll run you through how my coaching works and we can see if it's the right kind of fit for you. But I hope you found this video helpful and I'll see you in the next one.